Heat wave. Shatters records. The heat wave was one for the record books Friday in places across the East Coast, including New York City, where it was 104 degrees at Central Park by early afternoon. Factor in the humidity, and it felt closer to 115. The previous Central Park record for July 22nd was 101 degrees, set in 1957. The 104 was the second warmest of any day in Central Park history, the warmest being on July 9th, 1936. Several cities saw all-time highs. Newark, New Jersey, got to 108, shattering the previous record of 105 from 2001. Washington, D.C., at Dulles Airport, saw 105, a degree more than its previous record. Parts of the D.C. region saw heat indexes that made it feel like 120. Hartford, Connecticut, reached 103, a degree above the earlier record. Bridgeport, Connecticut, tied its all-time record high of 103. Other cities that set heat records for July 22nd included Baltimore, Maryland, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Atlantic City, New Jersey, and Trenton, New Jersey. Baltimore's Inner Harbor hit 107 degrees with a heat index reaching 120. In Connecticut, train service was suspended on parts of Metro-North's New Haven line after a number of trains became disabled between Stamford and New Haven when sagging overhead wires became tangled in the mechanisms above the train cars. Westport fire officials said they received dozens of 911 calls from people on the trains complaining about heat-related medical emergencies, including several pregnant women in distress. Power provider Consolidated Edison reported some 9,200 customers in every New York City borough and Westchester County had lost power. It also reduced the voltage, a so-called brownout, due to equipment failures in several neighborhoods in Queens and Brooklyn, affecting more than 121,000 customers. The company said increased use of air conditioners could push power usage to an all-time record, although, for now, it and other power companies said they had enough electricity to meet demand. The unrelenting heat prompted Con Ed to reduce voltage in some New York neighborhoods overnight as well. The company had restored electric service to over 16,500 out of 24,000 customers affected since the heat wave began Thursday. According to the Weather Channel, these searing temperatures in the Big Apple are rare. Central Park has only registered 57 days of triple-digit heat since 1870. The National Weather Service on Friday issued excessive heat warnings and advisories for 132 million people in 29 states from the country's midsection to the East Coast. Higher than normal temperatures were likely to remain over the eastern half of the United States for the next couple of weeks, the Weather Service said. The extreme heat has roasted communities across the Midwest for nearly a week, already responsible for at least 22 fatalities. The heat dome moved east on Thursday. Cooling centers in Richmond, Virginia, and New York welcomed overheated residents, and a truck labeled "Water Fountain on the Go" cruised Manhattan streets, offering to refill empty water bottles to keep residents hydrated. Meteorologists also warned of poor air quality in numerous cities, with a code red air quality designated as unhealthy for all people, forecast for Baltimore and Washington, D.C., according to the Weather Channel's Mark Avery. In this heat, it's not just about discomfort, but survival. LaToya White, Executive Director of Health Leads, a program run out of Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C., told the Washington Post cities up and down the East Coast opened cooling centers and extended public pool hours to offer residents some relief. Today in the Midwest and the Northeast, it's not only record heat, but the humidity is unusually high as well. It's kind of a double whammy, said AccuWeather.com senior meteorologist Tom Kynes. The mid-Atlantic is expected to stay hot and miserable through early next week. In parts of the Midwest and in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas, the heat will also continue. In Chicago, where a 5-day heat wave in 1995 killed hundreds, the city on Thursday endured a 5th consecutive day of abnormally high temperatures, with the heat index hitting 110 in the early afternoon. At least 7 fatalities were blamed on the heat in the area this week. Unhealthy smog levels triggered by the heat were also reported, where residents were asked by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency to reduce polluting activities such as idling cars and mowing lawns. By the weekend, the heat was expected to cover nearly 50% of the country and impact nearly half the population. In other words, this heat dome, or heat wave, is almost unprecedented in its size and longevity. Do not take this threat lightly, the NWS warned in a statement, noting the extreme temperatures are particularly dangerous for the elderly and the very young. The length of this heat wave will pose a very real and dangerous health risk to these at-risk groups and those that do not have access to air conditioning, the statement said. Yes, climate change, or whatever have you call it, is very real, and it's happening in many different ways all around the world. And these are more signs of the times, the end times, transition days, which is a continuing day-by-day process of extraordinary events, happenings, and changes. It's also about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations. There is a spiritual side to everything. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. 11. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. 13. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil days, and having done all, to stand. 14. Stand, therefore, having your loins girded about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness. 15. And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. 16. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. 17. And take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the 4th angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. 10. And the 5th angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom or nation was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. 11. And blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. And this sign is also another physical manifestation of the book of Revelation. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered. It's also called fate or destiny. The 4th angel is sounding now. Watch the weather changes.